Hey there, students. This week we have a question, and I've held back the name of the students for their protection, and that is, they want to know, why do some professors seem to go out of their way to be difficult or rude? Well, before I go into why professors would be that way, I just want to say professors are people, and just like in real life, some people aren't very nice. It doesn't matter if you work at a fast food restaurant, if you work at a manufacturing place, if you're a consultant, if you're a professor. Some people just aren't very nice. I mean, sometimes that's just what it is. They're jerks. Some people are jerks. I just want to get that one out of the way. It's not a professor thing. That's just a people thing. Some people are nice. Some people aren't so nice. So that's where I kind of want to start with. But another thing I want to think about when students say that professors are, difficult or they're rude, I have to ask, did the professor answer your question in the syllabus? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to point it out, but that's one thing where professors get frustrated when they answer questions that are already in the syllabus that you already have, that you've had to read before, and you're asking things that would literally take you 2 seconds to look up. That's one of the things where sometimes professors do get frustrated. And it might not be your email. You just might be the 40th person that's asked, when's the second exam? And they're like, I told you in class, it's in the syllabus, it's on the calendar, I don't know what else to do. And that is where the rudeness kind of comes out of that frustration. So that could be a reason. Another thing is I've always found that academics sometimes are a different breed, Like they've been studying and working and doing research on their own for so long that they're not always out and about and dealing with people all the time. So sometimes it's just social awkwardness and they're not trying to be rude. They're just not used to working in a group, or they don't know, or sometimes you're dealing with a professor that's from a different generation than you, or maybe 2 or 3 generations away from you, and therefore the generational differences, they don't realize what they're doing is wrong. People give the, oh, those boomers, oh, those zoomers, oh, those millennials, oh, those Gen Xers. Sometimes it's just kind of almost a generational misunderstanding where someone seems rude or difficult when they don't mean to be. Then sometimes you just catch people on a bad day, I mean, we all have bad days. Maybe they didn't get tenure. Maybe an article they were hoping to get published didn't get published, and you just happen to be the wrong place, the wrong time. That does happen too, why people sometimes are rude in academia. And sometimes, maybe it's just because their job focuses more on doing research to deal with students, so they focus most of their efforts on that research as opposed to dealing with their students. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of different reasons why it could be, why some professors seem to be rude or trying to be difficult. I don't want to throw any of my professors and my colleagues under the bus, but I think these are some reasons why you might see that. And honestly, it might just be that the professors are just kind of jaded with their experiences with students, because sometimes students do take advantage of professors. I mean, I can't tell you how many grandmas died in my classes over the years, but you know what? I became a savior to grandmas. Because all of a sudden, I was about 5 or 6 years ago, I started saying in my fall semester, hey, on December 4th, call your grandma, let her know that you love her. Because I have an unbelievable number of grandmas who die on December 5th, because that's when the final was. And people were like, oh, my grandma died, I can't go to class. And one, that pisses off some professor, pisses me off, because you're making actual grandmas that do die insignificant because you're using that thing. And when students would do that, it would cheapify actual grandparents that would die during the semester. And that's why it's one of those things that, sometimes the professor's like, I don't really believe you. We can't say that, but it's almost like, hey, it's just easy for me to ask for a letter from the emergency dean that says you had a family emergency and that makes my life easier than you come up with some story to me. I mean, I've had students come up with excuses to me. Like one was like, well, I couldn't take the exam because I was in Cabo, because we were going to Cabo for my fiance's grandpa's passing. I'm like, really? How interesting. And then I'm like, well, you can take the exam online. And then a few days say, well, our all-inclusive internet didn't work very well. I'm like, whoa. I thought you were there for a funeral or a passing. Now you're at the all-inclusive? Come on. And experiences like that sometimes jade professors, so they kind of pass that on to other students who don't deserve it. I'm not going to say it's right. I'm just going to say I'm trying to explain why some of them come off as difficult or rude just because of their experiences. So I'm sorry. I hope I don't come off as jaded or rude or inconsiderate. I try to be good, but I know sometimes maybe I'm not the greatest professor ever, but I try to be the best I can for my students, and that's all I can ask for. So, student that asked this, whose name was held back, I hope that answers your question, or at least gives you some possibilities why they might be a little bit rude. So what do you think? Why do you think your professors might be a little rude or difficult? Or why do you think the students might be rude and difficult? Have you ever thought of that one? Anyway, I'll say bye from here in Sevilla, Spain. And if you have any questions for Professor Walters, let us know in the comments below. We can make a future video answering your question.